I've been invisible for 9 months, cleaning Kang Minho's penthouse like a ghost. Then 2 men beat me unconscious 3 blocks from his door. And suddenly, the most feared Mafia boss in Seoul could finally see me. They wanted to send a message. Instead, they gave him a reason to start a war. And me? I became the thing worth burning the city down for. This is the story of how a fractured rib, $500,000 in debt, and 4 minutes of violence led to the most dangerous love I never saw coming. The rain hammered against Gangnam streets like bullets, but I barely felt it. My sneakers were already soaked through, water squishing between my toes with each hurried step. 3 more blocks, just 3 more blocks to the Seoul Metro entrance, and I'd be safe. I pulled my hood tighter, trying to ignore the way my ribs ached from scrubbing tile grout for the past 4 hours. Behind me, footsteps echoed off wet pavement. I told myself it was nothing. Seoul was a big city. Lots of people walked these streets at night. But when I glanced over my shoulder, 2 figures emerged from the fog of rain, moving with purpose that made my stomach drop. I quickened my pace. 2 blocks now. The station glowed ahead like salvation, but the footsteps behind me were getting closer. Faster. Hey, the voice cut through the rain. English, but with a Seoul accent. You, stop. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs felt like concrete. I turned slowly, heart hammering against my ribs. 2 hard-eyed Korean men blocked my path, rain streaming down faces that belonged in nightmares. The one who'd spoken had a shaved head and eyes cold enough to freeze blood. Evening, he said, stepping closer. His companion, taller and broader, moved to cut off my escape route. Where are you going so fast? Home. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Please, I don't want trouble. No trouble. The bald man smiled, but it wasn't friendly. His eyes dropped to my chest, to the gray polo shirt visible beneath my jacket, to the small, discreet logo embroidered there. His smile vanished. Wait, that uniform. You work at that building, don't you? The big one in Hanam. Ice flooded my veins. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie. He grabbed my collar, yanking me forward so hard I gasped. I've seen that logo before. You work for Kang Minho, the boss. You work for him. I'm just a cleaner, I said desperately. I just clean houses. I don't know anything about just a cleaner. The man laughed, ugly and cold. He looked at his companion. She works for Kang. You know what that means. The taller man's expression changed. Something dark crossed his features, and I knew with absolute certainty that I was in serious trouble. Please, I whispered. Please, just let me go. We have a message for your boss, the bald man said, pulling me closer. About who really owns up. These streets. About what happens when people forget their place. The first punch came from nowhere. Pain exploded across my cheekbone, white hot and blinding. I staggered backward, but hands grabbed my arms before I could fall. Fingers dug into my flesh hard enough to bruise, hard enough to leave marks I'd see for weeks. This is what happens, the bald man hissed in my ear, when people think they can just walk through our territory like they own it, when they think working for Kang makes them untouchable. The second hit caught my ribs, then another, and another. I tried to scream, but a palm clamped over my mouth. I tasted copper and rain and terror. Tell your boss, the man said, punctuating each word with violence, that Itaewon belongs to us now. Tell him the Baek family doesn't forget. Tell him. Something cracked in my chest. The pain was so intense that everything went white, then gray, then black. I didn't feel them drop me, didn't hear them rifle through my bag, taking my phone, my wallet, everything. Didn't register the rain washing my blood into the gutter as they disappeared into the Seoul night. When consciousness returned, I was lying on wet pavement, every breath like knives in my side. My left eye wouldn't open. My mouth tasted like blood. Through my one working eye, I could see the station ahead, its lights wavering through the rain and my tears. Get up, move, get home. Somehow, I did. The next morning, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and barely recognized myself. My left eye had swollen completely shut, purple and black spreading across the socket like a bruise-colored flower. My bottom lip was split open, scabbed over during the night. When I lifted my shirt, My entire left side was a canvas of red and purple bruises, each one a reminder of fists and kicks and hands that had grabbed me with intent to hurt. I touched my ribs gently and gasped. Something was definitely broken. "Dee, my brother Marcus knocked on the bathroom door. "You okay in there? We're going to be late." I looked at the makeup on the counter. Foundation, concealer, powder. I'd need all of it and more to make myself presentable for work. The problem was, no amount of makeup could hide a swollen shut eye, or the way I moved like every breath was agony. "I'm fine," I called back, and started layering on concealer thick enough to pass for a mask. 20 minutes later, I emerged. Marcus took one look at my face and went pale. "Jesus Christ, Dee, what happened?" "I fell," I said, the lie I'd practiced. "Metro stairs, they get slippery when it rains." "That's not from falling downstairs." And Marcus moved closer, his chef's eyes cataloging every injury with the precision he used for plating dishes. "Someone did this to you. Who? When? Why didn't you call me? They took my phone, remember?" I grabbed my jacket carefully, trying not to wince when the movement pulled at my ribs. It was just a mugging, Marcus. "Wrong place, wrong time. I'm fine." "You're not fine. You can barely breathe. We need to go to the hospital. We can't afford it." My voice broke. "I can't afford it. The payment on Dad's debt is due in 2 weeks, and I'm already short $4,000. I can't add hospital bills on top of that." Marcus's face crumpled, but he didn't argue. We both knew the math. Our father's kidney failure had cost $500,000 before he died, and the hospital didn't care that he was gone. The debt remained, patient and hungry, eating our wages month after month. "At least let me drive you," Marcus said quietly. I accepted because the metro stairs felt impossible this morning. Kang Min-ho's penthouse occupied the top floors of a tower in Hanam-dong that touched the sky. All glass and steel and views that stretched across the Han River like a promise of power. I'd been cleaning it for 9 months, moving through rooms that cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime, polishing surfaces that gleamed under lights that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I was invisible here. That was the point. That was how you survived working for a man like Kang Min-ho. I'd learned his patterns over 9 months, heard his footsteps on the stairs, measured and deliberate, and knew to be elsewhere. Caught glimpses of him through doorways, perfect hair, expensive suits, eyes the color of dark whiskey that never quite landed on me. He held meetings in his office with men who spoke in low voices and left through private exits. I cleaned up after them, emptied ashtrays that smelled of expensive cigars, collected glasses still wet with imported liquor. I didn't ask questions. That wasn't my job. My job was to disappear. But today, something was different. Today, Kang was home when he shouldn't be. I was polishing the marble banister on the second floor, moving slowly to avoid pulling at my damaged ribs, when I heard footsteps behind me. Not the housekeeper, not Marcus. I knew those sounds. These were different. Measured, deliberate, dangerous. "You're here late," the voice made me jump. I turned, biting back a gasp as my ribs protested, and found Kang Min-ho standing 10 feet away. Up close, he was even more intimidating than glimpses suggested. 6'2", broad-shouldered, with a face that belonged on magazine covers if magazine covers featured men who controlled half of Seoul's underworld. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and for the first time in 9 months, his dark eyes were looking directly at me, actually seeing me. "I'm finishing up, Mr. Kang," I managed, turning my head to hide my damaged left side. "I'll be out of your way in a few minutes." Silence. I could feel his gaze on me like a physical weight. Then, footsteps, coming closer. Look at me, not a request, not quite an order, something in between that made me obey before I decided to. I lifted my face, let him see what makeup couldn't hide. Kang went absolutely still. His eyes tracked across my swollen eye, my split lip. The bruises makeup couldn't quite cover. Something flickered in his expression. There and gone so fast, I almost missed it. "What happened to your face?" The question landed like a physical blow, direct, unavoidable. "I fell," I said, the lie tasting like ash. "Metro stairs. They get slippery when it rains." "You fell." His voice was flat, emotionless. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell cedar and something expensive. Which side did you fall on? The question confused me. What? Left or right? Which side hit the stairs? Left, I think. You think. He circled slowly, like a predator examining prey. But you're favoring your left side when you breathe, protecting it. So you fell on your left, hit your left eye, split your lip, and now your left ribs hurt. He stopped in front of me again. That's a very consistent fall. Heat flooded my face. Yes. Show me your arms. Mr. Kong, I really need to. Show me your arms, now. My hands trembled as I set down the cleaning cloth. This was my employer. I couldn't refuse. Didn't want to, for reasons I couldn't examine too closely. I pushed up my right sleeve first, the arm that had taken less damage. Just some scrapes across the forearm. The other one, I hesitated. The left arm told a different story, but Kang waited with infinite patience, and eventually I pushed up that sleeve too. The bruises were spectacular, perfect finger-shaped marks circling my bicep where someone had grabbed me. Purple and yellow and angry red. Unmistakable. Kang stared at them for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice had dropped to something cold and deadly. Who did this to you? I told you I... Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't lie to me again. Those are not from a fall. Someone grabbed you, held you. His eyes met mine. Where did this happen? The use of my name shocked me into silence. I hadn't known he knew it. 3 blocks from here, I said. Thursday night, walking to the metro. What did they take? My bag, phone, wallet. I swallowed hard. And then, they saw my uniform, my voice cracked. Asked if I worked for you. I said no, but they didn't believe me. They said... I couldn't finish. What did they say? Kong's voice was soft, but something dangerous lurked underneath. They said it was a message. That Itaewon belongs to them now. That working for you doesn't make people untouchable. I touched my swollen eye gently. They said to tell the boss that the Beck family doesn't forget. The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Kang's jaw tightened incrementally, the only visible sign of whatever was happening behind those dark eyes. Then he moved to his desk, pressed a button on the phone. Ji-hoon, my office. Now. Mr. Kang, please, I started. I don't want to cause trouble. Sit down. I should really finish. Sit down. Not angry, just absolute. The voice of someone who expected obedience and received it. I sat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk, feeling small and exposed. My ribs throbbed with each breath, reminding me that I was hurt, vulnerable, in the office of one of Seoul's most dangerous men, because someone had used me as a message board. Ji-hoon arrived within 3 minutes. A man in his late 30s with silver, threading his dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. He took one look at my face and went completely still. 3 blocks from here, Kang said without preamble. Thursday night, 2 men. They saw her uniform and decided to deliver a message from the Beck family. Ji-hoon's expression turned to stone. Where exactly? Between the dry cleaner and the convenience store, I supplied quietly. Around 10:15. We have cameras in that area. Ji-hoon pulled out his phone. I'll pull the footage now. Do that, and Ji-hoon? Kang's voice dropped even lower. Find them. I want them here by midnight. Consider it done. Ji-hoon left as quickly as he'd arrived. The door clicked shut, and I was alone with Kang again. The silence stretched unbearably until I couldn't stand it anymore. This isn't necessary, I said. I'm fine. It was just a mugging. It wasn't a mugging. Kang finally looked at me, and there was something in his expression that made my breath catch. They attacked you because you work for me, in my territory, on my street. That makes it personal. I'm just a housekeeper. You work in my home. He moved around the desk, sat in the chair beside mine instead of behind the desk. Close, equal. You've been here 9 months. I noticed things, Dee. My throat tightened. What things? How you organize my books by author without being asked. How you fold the newspapers so the headlines face up. How you water the orchids in my office every Tuesday because they need consistent care. He paused. How you take every overtime shift offered. How you never complain. Never ask for anything. I need the money, I whispered. I know, medical bills, your father. His eyes searched my face. $500,000, kidney failure. He died 18 months ago, but the debt doesn't care. Of course he knew. He probably knew everything about everyone who worked for him. So you understand, I continued, why this isn't worth your time. Why you should just let it go. No. Kong leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I don't understand that at all. What I understand is that someone hurt one of my people as a message to me. And in my world, Dee, messages like that require responses, loud responses. The way he said my people made something warm and dangerous unfurl in my chest. What will you do to them? I asked quietly. What needs to be done? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Except I didn't have a phone anymore. Kong reached into his pocket and pulled out a new iPhone, still in its box. You'll need this, he said, handing it to me. Your number's already transferred. Password is your birthday. I stared at the phone. How do you know my birthday? I know everything about the people who work in my home. He stood, offered me his hand. Come. You're not cleaning anything else today. You're going to rest until this is handled. I took his hand before I decided to. His grip was firm, careful, and he pulled me to my feet with effortless strength. For a moment we stood too close, his hand still holding mine, and the air between us felt charged with something I didn't understand. Then he released me and stepped back. This way. He led me through corridors I'd cleaned 1,000 times, but everything looked different now. I wasn't invisible anymore. Kong Minho saw me, knew my name, and for reasons I couldn't fathom, that changed everything. The guest room he showed me to was larger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, furniture that looked like it belonged in a palace, a bed so big it could sleep 4 people comfortably. Rest, Kong said from the doorway. Ji-hoon will need time to pull the footage and locate the men who did this. I want you here, safe, until it's handled. I should really finish my work. That wasn't a suggestion. His tone allowed no argument. You're injured. You'll rest. He left before I could protest further, the door clicking shut with quiet finality. I sank into the chair by the window because my legs were shaking and my ribs screamed with every movement. Through the glass, I watched Seoul spread out below like a glittering promise. Somewhere in that city, 2 men who'd beaten me were going about their lives, not knowing that Kong Minho now knew their names, not knowing what was coming for them. Marcus appeared 20 minutes later, carrying a tray with tea and food I hadn't asked for. He set it on the side table, then perched on the arm of my chair. Okay, what the hell is happening? He kept his voice low. Kang just personally escorted you upstairs. Ji-hoon is running around looking like someone declared war. And you're sitting in the nicest guest room like you're actually a guest instead of staff. He knows about the attack, I said quietly. He saw my face, asked questions. I couldn't keep lying. And he's taking it personally. Marcus, they recognized my uniform. The men who attacked me, they knew I worked here. They said it was a message for Kong. Marcus's face went pale. That's why he's losing his mind. That's why Ji-hoon is pulling security footage and mobilizing half the organization. He said they hurt one of his people, that it requires a response. Dee, Marcus grabbed my hand. Do you understand what that means? In this world, a response isn't filing a police report. It's... He trailed off, unable or unwilling to finish. I knew what he meant. I'd heard the whispers over 9 months of working here. Knew what kind of man Kong Minho was, what kind of business he ran. Knew that people who crossed him had a tendency to disappear. I know, I whispered. And you're okay with that? Was I? Should I be? 2 men had beaten me unconscious and left me in the rain like garbage. Now Kong was mobilizing his entire organization to find them, and I suspected finding them was just the beginning. I don't know, I admitted. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then squeezed my hand. Just be careful. This world, his world, it's not like ours. And now you're in it whether you meant to be or not. After he left, I tried to rest, tried to close my eyes and forget about everything. But every time I started to drift off, I saw fists coming toward my face, felt hands grabbing my arms, heard voices saying, "Tell your boss." Around 7 p.m., there was a knock at my door. Not Marcus. Not the housekeeper. I knew those sounds. "Come in," I called. Kang entered carrying a leather folder. His expression was grim. "We have them," he said without preamble. "The men who attacked you. We have them on video, and we have their names." My heart jumped into my throat. "Already?" "I have cameras on every street within 5 blocks of this building. Nothing happens in my territory that I don't see." He opened the folder, pulled out printed screenshots from security footage. "I need you to confirm, is this them?" The images were grainy but clear enough. 2 men emerging from an alley, one bald, one broader, both wearing dark clothes that blended into the rainy night. "That's them," I whispered. Kang's jaw tightened. "Their names are Park Dong-soo and Kim Tae-gon. Both work for the Baek family, low-level enforcers trying to make names for themselves by pushing into my territory." He pulled out another photo. "This is who sent them." The third photo showed an older man, maybe 50, with scars cutting through his left eyebrow. "Baek Jin-seok," Kang said. "He's been testing my boundaries for months. This was his way of seeing if I'd respond." "What are you going to do?" "Find them, bring them here, make it very clear what happens when someone touches what's mine." The way he said mine made my skin prickle. "When?" I asked. "Tonight. Ji-hoon has teams out now. They'll be here by midnight." He studied my face. "I want you to stay, not in this guest room. Upstairs, in my private quarters, where I know you're safe." "Mr. Kang." "Minho," he interrupted. "When we're alone, call me Minho." The intimacy of that request stole my breath. "Minho, I can't just stay in your personal space. That's not appropriate." "Nothing about this situation is appropriate." He moved closer. "Someone used you to send me a message. That means you're a target now. That means every move you make until this is resolved puts you in danger. So yes, you can stay in my personal quarters. You will stay there, because I don't take chances with my people. I'm not your responsibility. You work for me. You were attacked in my territory wearing my household's uniform. That makes you my responsibility." His eyes held mine. "Don't fight me on this, Didi. Please." The please undid me. I nodded, unable to form words around the tightness in my throat. Kang's private quarters occupied the entire top floor of the penthouse. I'd never been up here before, never even knew these stairs existed. The space was sparse but elegant, all dark wood and minimal furniture, dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows that made me feel like I was floating above the Han River. "The bedroom is through there," Kang said, gesturing. "Bathroom is stocked with everything you need. If you want different clothes, there's a closet with items in various sizes. Help yourself." "Why do you have a closet full of women's clothes?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "I don't." He almost smiled. "I had Ji-hoon buy them today. For you." "Oh. You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." He moved to the windows, stared out at the city. "You've been working here 9 months. You've never asked for anything, never complained. Just showed up and did your job with the kind of quiet competence most people wouldn't notice." He glanced back at me. "I noticed. You noticed I fold newspapers. I noticed everything." The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. "How you organize books by author even though no one asked you to. How you never gossip with the other staff. How you water the orchids every Tuesday without fail. How you take every overtime shift offered." He paused. "How you move through my home like you're trying to be invisible, like you don't deserve to take up space." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I'm just a housekeeper. You're Didi Okafor. You're 28 years old. You moved to Seoul 3 years ago to earn money for your father's medical treatment. You work 60-hour weeks and send half your salary to pay off debt that should have died with him. You speak 3 languages and have a degree in literature you've never used because you were too busy trying to save your family." He turned to face me fully. "You're not just anything. And after tonight, everyone in this city will know it." The certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Something warm and dangerous that had no place in this situation. "What happens at midnight?" I asked quietly. "Justice. Simple. Absolute. The kind the law doesn't provide." I should have been horrified, should have run. Instead, I found myself asking, "Can I watch?" Something flickered in Kang's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or approval. No, he said. What happens in my office tonight isn't for your eyes. It's dark, Dee. Darker than you can imagine. I won't let that touch you. They already touched me. They put their hands on me and broke my ribs and left me in the rain like garbage. My voice cracked. I want to see. I want them to know I'm not just a message. That I'm a person. That I matter. Kang stared at me for a long moment. Then he crossed the space between us in 3 strides and cupped my face with both hands, careful not to touch my bruises. You matter, he said, voice rough. You matter to me, more than you should, more than is safe. Then he released me and stepped back, leaving my skin tingling where his hands had been. Rest, he said. I'll come get you when it's time. He left, and I stood alone in his private quarters, touching my face where he'd touched me, trying to understand what had just happened. I should call Marcus, should tell him I was upstairs in Kang's personal space, that I'd asked to watch whatever was going to happen at midnight. Should probably examine why the thought of 2 men paying for what they'd done didn't fill me with horror. Instead, I showered in his enormous bathroom, dressed in clothes that fit perfectly because he'd somehow known my size, and waited. At 11:45, there was a knock. I opened the door to find Ji-hoon standing there, his expression neutral. They're here, he said. Mr. Kang said to bring you down if you still want to come. I did. I shouldn't, but I did. Ji-hoon led me through corridors I'd never seen, downstairs that seemed to descend into the building's bones. We ended in a hallway with a single door, and I could hear voices beyond it. Low, urgent, afraid. Last chance, Ji-hoon said quietly. What you see in there, you can't unsee. It'll change how you think about Mr. Kang, how you think about this world. I know, I said. Open the door. He did. The room beyond was stark, concrete floors, industrial lighting, no windows. And in the center, kneeling with their hands zip-tied behind their backs, were the 2 men who'd attacked me. They looked different now, smaller, afraid. Blood streaked down the bald one's face from a cut above his eye. The broader one had a split lip that mirrored mine. Kang stood to one side, perfectly still, watching them with predatory focus. 2 other men I didn't recognize flanked the door, guns visible at their waists. When I entered, everyone turned. The kneeling men's eyes went wide with recognition and fear. You, the bald one breathed. The girl from... Yes, Kang interrupted, his voice soft and deadly. The girl you beat unconscious 3 blocks from my home. The girl whose ribs you fractured. The girl you used to send me a message. He moved to stand directly in front of them. Say her name. What? The bald man looked confused. Her name. Say it. Apologize to her properly. I don't know her name. Exactly. Kang crouched, bringing himself eye level with the kneeling man. You put your hands on her, you broke her bones, you left her bleeding in the rain, and you never even bothered to learn her name. He stood. Her name is Didi Okafor. She's 28 years old. She cleans houses for a living. She works 60 hours a week to pay off her dead father's medical debt. She's never hurt anyone, never caused trouble. She was just walking home after a double shift. His voice dropped even lower. And you beat her unconscious for politics. The silence that followed was absolute. I'm sorry, the bald man said desperately. I'm so sorry. We didn't know she was yours. Beck said to send a message. He said you'd gone soft, that we could push into Hanum. We were just supposed to scare a few people, show we could reach into your territory. We didn't mean to really hurt anyone. You didn't mean to. Kang didn't move. You fractured her ribs, split her lip, closed her eye shut with swelling, but you didn't mean to hurt her. Please, Mr. Kang, I have a family, 2 kids, a wife, please. So did she. Kang's voice was ice. Her father died. Her mother is alone in Lagos. Her brother works in my kitchen, terrified someone will hurt his sister again. He turned to me. What do you want me to do with them? Every eye in the room fixed on me. The kneeling men, Ji-hoon, the guards, Kang. All waiting for me to decide their fate. I looked at the man who'd hit me, who'd grabbed my arms hard enough to leave finger-shaped bruises, who'd kicked my ribs until something cracked, who'd left me in the rain like I was nothing. I want them to know what it feels like, I said quietly, to be helpless, to hurt, to be afraid. Kang nodded once. Done. Ji-hoon, take them. Make it clean. I want Beck to receive his message, but I don't want bodies showing up in the Han creating problems with the police. Understood. Jihoon gestured to the guards, who moved forward to haul the men to their feet. Wait, the bald man pleaded. Please, Mr. Kang. Mercy, please. I showed you mercy, Kang said, without turning around. I'm letting you see tomorrow. That's more mercy than you showed her. They were dragged away, the broad one silent, the bald one sobbing. The door closed behind them with a heavy thud, and suddenly the room felt too big and too small at the same time. My legs gave out. I didn't realize I was falling until Kang caught me, his arms steady and strong around my waist. I've got you, he murmured. It's over, they can't hurt you anymore. But it wasn't over, not really. Because now I'd seen this side of him, this world, and there was no going back to being invisible. Kang carried me back upstairs, not to the guest room, to his private quarters, to his bedroom where he laid me on the bed, with a gentleness that seemed impossible from hands that had just condemned men to pain. Stay here tonight, he said. I need to know you're safe. Where will you sleep? The couch. I have work to do anyway. He moved toward the door, then paused. Didi? Yes? Thank you for trusting me, for letting me handle this. I know it wasn't easy. After he left, I lay in his bed, wrapped in sheets that smelled like cedar and him, and tried to process what had just happened. I'd watched Kang Min-ho condemn 2 men, had told him I wanted them to hurt, had felt satisfaction instead of horror. What did that make me? Sleep came in fragments, broken by dreams of rain and fists, and dark eyes watching me with an intensity that made my skin burn. I woke to find Kang sitting in the chair by the window, still dressed, watching the sun rise over the Han. Did you sleep at all? I asked. No. He glanced at me. How do you feel? Sore, but better. I sat up carefully, testing my ribs. Still hurt, but the sharp edge had dulled. What happened to them? The men. They're alive. Hurt, but alive. Beck received his message this morning. 3 of his establishments were hit last night. Not destroyed, just damaged. Enough to make it clear that pushing into my territory has consequences. Will there be retaliation? Probably. That's how this works. Someone pushes, I push back. They push harder. He stood, crossed to the bed. Which is why you need to see a doctor. Real one, not just ice and painkillers. I need to know exactly how badly you're hurt. I can't afford. I'm not asking about your finances. I'm telling you we're going to see my private physician at 9 a.m. He'll examine you, x-ray your ribs, prescribe proper pain management. His voice softened. Let me do this, Didi, please. There was that please again. Undoing my defenses. Okay, I whispered. Dr. Park's clinic occupied the 2nd floor of an unmarked building in Seongsu. No sign outside, no indication it was anything other than offices. Kang led me through a private entrance. Upstairs, I climbed slowly, each step a fresh reminder of Thursday night. The doctor was perhaps 60, with silver hair and hands that looked like they belonged to a surgeon. He examined my face with clinical detachment, checking my pupil responses, palpating the swelling around my eye. No sign of orbital fracture, he said, making notes on a tablet. Significant soft tissue damage, but it'll heal. How's your vision? Blurry in the left eye, I answered, but it's getting better. Good, now the ribs, he gestured to an exam table. Shirt off, you can keep the bra on. I hesitated, acutely aware of Kang standing against the wall. Dr. Park noticed my discomfort. Mr. Kang, perhaps. I'm staying, Kang said flatly. Turn around then, I said, surprising myself. Please? He did, offering me that small privacy. I peeled off my shirt carefully, trying not to gasp when the movement pulled at damaged tissue. The bruises had ripened overnight into spectacular shades of purple and yellow. Dr. Park's professional mask slipped for just a moment. Jesus! Then he was all business again, pressing carefully along my ribs. When he reached the 6th one, I couldn't contain the sharp intake of breath. Fractured, he said. Let's confirm with x-rays. The portable machine emerged from a side room, and for the next 10 minutes, I held various uncomfortable positions while trying not to cry from the pain. Kang had turned back around, and I felt his gaze on me like a physical weight. The x-ray confirmed it. 6th rib on the left side, Clean break. Not displaced, which meant it would heal without surgery, but it would take time. 6 weeks minimum, Dr. Park said, wrapping my torso in a compression bandage that made breathing easier. No heavy lifting, no strenuous exercise. If the pain worsens or you develop difficulty breathing, call me immediately. He typed prescriptions into his tablet. Pain management and anti-inflammatories. Take them with food. How much do I started. It's handled, Kang said firmly. He was already pulling out his wallet. Dr. Park handed me a bag with prescriptions already filled. Rest. Real rest. Not working through it. In the car afterward, I stared at the prescription bag in my lap. How much did that cost? Not your concern. Minho? Let me ask you something. He turned to face me fully. If Marcus had been attacked the way you were, if he'd been beaten unconscious in my territory, would you want him worrying about medical bills? That's different. How? I opened my mouth, closed it. Couldn't find an answer that didn't sound hollow. You've been working for me for 9 months, he continued. I know things about you. How you organize my books even though no one asked. How you fold newspapers so headlines face up. How you take every overtime shift offered. He paused. How you never complain, never ask for anything. Just show up and do your job like you don't deserve to exist in the same world as the people you serve. If you say just a housekeeper one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. His voice was sharp. You're Didi Okafor. You matter. Your pain matters. Your safety matters. To me, do you understand? Tears burned behind my eyes. Why? Why do you matter? Why do you care? I clean your floors. That's it. That's all I am to you. No. He reached across the console, took my hand. That's not all you are. That's not even close to all you are. The drive back to the penthouse passed in charged silence, his hand still holding mine. When we arrived, he helped me out of the car with a gentleness that made my chest ache. Rest for the weekend, he said. No work, no cleaning, just recovery. I can't afford to miss work. You're not missing work. You're recovering from an injury that happened because of me. I'm paying you for the time. Minho. Not negotiable. He guided me toward the elevator. Come on, Marcus has been worried sick. He's probably wearing a hole in my kitchen floor by now. Marcus was indeed waiting in the kitchen, and he pulled me into a careful hug the moment he saw me. You're okay, he breathed. They said Mr. Kang took you to a doctor. What did he say? Fractured rib? 6 weeks recovery. Marcus's face darkened. I'm going to kill them. I'm going to find those men and... They've been handled, Kang said quietly. Your sister is safe. That's what matters. Over the weekend, I discovered that Kang took rest very seriously. He appeared at odd intervals with food, checked that I'd taken my medication, adjusted pillows when he caught me wincing. Each interaction was careful, controlled. But underneath the control I sensed something else, something that made my pulse quicken whenever he entered the room. Sunday evening, I found myself on the terrace, wrapped in a blanket against the October chill. The same terrace I'd cleaned dozens of times, furniture I'd polished but never expected to actually sit on. Kang emerged from inside, carrying 2 glasses and a cigarette. He handed me 1 glass, tea prepared exactly how I liked it, and settled into the chair beside mine. How do you feel? He asked, lighting the cigarette with practiced ease. Sore, but better. I sipped the tea. The medication helps. Good. He exhaled smoke that curled into the evening air. Dr. Park says you'll heal completely, no permanent damage. Physically, anyway. He turned to look at me. Are you afraid? Going back out there, walking those streets again? I considered the question seriously. Was I afraid? Thursday night played on repeat in my mind. The rain, the alley, the hands grabbing me. But underneath the fear was something else, something harder. No, I said finally. I'm angry. Good. Kang's approval was clear. Anger is useful. Fear makes you weak. Anger makes you sharp. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from gold to purple to deep blue. Seoul sprawled below us, millions of lights against the darkness. Why did you take over your father's business? I asked suddenly. You could have done anything, been anything. Kang was quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father died when I was 22. Heart attack. Sudden and violent, he studied the cigarette. He left me an empire built over 40 years and 300 families who depended on us for work, protection, justice the law wouldn't provide. He paused. I could have walked away, sold everything, moved to Tokyo, lived off the money, but those families would have been absorbed by rivals or left to fend for themselves in a city that doesn't forgive weakness. So you chose responsibility over freedom. I chose honor over ease. He glanced at me. What about you? Why do you work so hard? The double shifts, the overtime, it's more than just debt. The question opened something in my chest. I took a breath, felt it pull at my wrapped ribs, and told him about my father's kidney failure. About believing treatment could save him. About working 3 jobs to pay for dialysis, for medication, for treatments that promised hope, but delivered only more pain. About the bills that arrived after his funeral like accusations. $500,000 that would follow me for years. Kang listened without interruption, without judgment. When I finished, he simply nodded. That kind of debt is designed to be impossible, he said. They know most people will pay minimum amounts forever, feeding the interest machine. It's legal extortion. Maybe, but it's still mine to pay. Because you honor your obligations. The way he said it, like it was a virtue instead of a burden, made my throat tight. Night had fully fallen now, stars emerging overhead despite the city lights. Kang reached over and adjusted the blanket that had slipped from my shoulder, his fingers brushing my neck with unexpected gentleness. You should rest, he said. Tomorrow we'll discuss longer-term arrangements. Arrangements. You're not going back to walking home alone at night, not for a while. He stood, stubbing out the cigarette. We'll figure something out that doesn't make you feel caged. After he left, I sat alone on the terrace, the city spread out below like a glittering promise. And for the first time since Thursday night, I felt something other than pain or anger. I felt protected. Seen, like maybe impossibly. I mattered to someone who could move mountains with a word. Monday morning arrived with news that rippled through the household like an earthquake. I heard it from the housekeeper first, whispered in rapid Korean while I was attempting to make coffee one-handed. 3 bake family establishments hit over the weekend. An underground gambling den in Itaewon, a restaurant in Apgujeong that everyone knew was laundering money, and a warehouse near the Incheon docks. The housekeeper's eyes were wide. No one killed, but the message was clear. Kang Minho doesn't forget. My hand trembled as I poured coffee. The men who'd hurt me had paid. Their boss had paid. And it had happened so fast, so efficiently that it felt almost surreal. I returned to work despite Marcus's protests and my body's screaming objections. The compression wrap around my ribs made breathing easier, but every deep inhale reminded me I wasn't fully healed. Every time I turned too quickly, pain flared along my left side. I was polishing a mirror in the second-floor hallway when Kang found me. What are you doing? His voice was low, controlled. But I heard displeasure underneath. My job. You're supposed to be resting. I've rested all weekend. I need to work. I kept my focus on the mirror. Bills don't pay themselves. He crossed the space between us in 3 strides, took the cleaning cloth from my hand, and set it aside. No heavy lifting, no reaching above your head, no bending that makes you wince like you're being stabbed. His dark eyes searched my face. I watched you climb those stairs. You gripped the railing like it was the only thing keeping you upright. I'm fine. You're not fine. You have a fractured rib and bruises that make you look like you went 10 rounds in a boxing ring. He retrieved the cloth, handed it back. Light work only. If I catch you doing anything strenuous, I'm sending you home for the week. Understood? Understood, but he didn't leave. Just stood there studying me with that intensity that made my pulse quicken. Have you eaten today? He asked. The question caught me off guard. What? Breakfast. Did you eat anything? Coffee. I had coffee. His expression suggested coffee didn't count as food. Come with me. He led me downstairs to the kitchen where Marcus was prepping vegetables. My brother looked up when we entered, eyebrows rising when he saw Kang personally escorting me. Your sister needs to eat, Kang told Marcus. Make sure she does, regularly, not just coffee. Yes, sir, Marcus said, fighting a smile. Kang left, and the moment the door swung shut, Marcus rounded on me. He personally checked if you ate breakfast, His voice was low but intense. Didi, he's never done that for anyone, ever. He's just making sure I recover properly because I got hurt in his territory. Keep telling yourself that. Marcus pushed a plate of pastries toward me. Eat before he comes back and lectures us both. The week that followed established a pattern I couldn't quite make sense of. Kang appeared at odd moments, when I was dusting the library, organizing linens, watering the orchids I'd tended for months. Each time he'd pause, ask how I felt, adjust a pillow if he saw me sitting, bring coffee prepared exactly how I liked it, even though I'd never told him my preferences. Other staff members noticed. I caught curious glances, heard whispers that stopped when I entered rooms, but no one said anything directly. Wednesday afternoon, Jihoon found me in the linen closet. He's different with you, Jihoon said without preamble. I jumped, nearly dropping the towel I was folding. I didn't hear you come in. That's the point. He leaned against the doorframe. I've known Minho since he was 22. Watched him build this organization from the ground up after his father died. He doesn't let people in, doesn't show weakness, doesn't care about the small details of anyone's life unless it serves a strategic purpose. What's your point? My point is, he knows how you take your coffee. He noticed when you changed the way you organize his books. He personally drove you to the doctor and sat there while you got examined. Jihoon's expression was unreadable. That's not strategy, that's something else. He's just being responsible. I got hurt because of his business. Sure, keep believing that if it helps you sleep at night. He pushed off the doorframe. But when this gets complicated, and it will, remember I warned you. He left before I could respond. Thursday evening, exactly 1 week after the attack, I found myself alone in the library. Kang had asked me to organize some new book acquisitions, and I'd been arranging them by author when the sun set and the house quieted around me. My bruises had faded to yellowish shadows, barely visible unless you knew where to look. The swelling around my eye had disappeared entirely, but my ribs still ached when I breathed too deeply, a constant reminder that healing took time. I was shelving a leather-bound collection when I heard footsteps behind me. You're working late, Kang's voice, low and close. I turned, found him standing just inside the doorway. He'd removed his jacket, rolled his shirt sleeves to his elbows. The sight of him like that, guard partially lowered, did something to my insides that I absolutely shouldn't have been feeling. Finishing what you asked me to do, I said, gesturing to the books. These are beautiful editions. First printings, some of them. My grandfather's collection. He moved closer, examining the spines I'd arranged. You organized them chronologically within each author. It seemed to make sense. Track the evolution of their work. Most people would have just done alphabetical. His eyes met mine. You're not most people. No, I heard myself say. I'm not. The silence stretched between us, charged with something I couldn't name but felt everywhere. In the air, in the narrowing space between our bodies, in the way his gaze dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. I can't stop thinking about you, he said finally, voice rough. Since that night, since I saw what they did, since I realized you've been here for 9 months, and I'd been too blind to really see you, my throat went dry. Minho, tell me you don't feel it. He stepped closer. Tell me I'm imagining this, and I'll walk away, leave you alone, but tell me honestly. I should have lied. Should have protected both of us from whatever this was. Instead, the truth came out in a whisper. I can't stop thinking about you either. He closed the distance between us in one step, his hand coming up to cup my face with surprising gentleness. His thumb traced the faded shadow of the bruise on my cheekbone. I'm not a good man, Didi. I do terrible things to maintain power and protect what's mine. His voice was low, intense. You deserve better than what I can offer. Maybe I don't want better. My heart hammered against my ribs. Maybe I want this. The kiss happened like inevitability. Soft at first, questioning, his lips against mine, testing boundaries neither of us had acknowledged existed. When I didn't pull away, when my hands came up to grip his shirt, it deepened. His other hand found my waist, careful to avoid my injured ribs. I tasted coffee and something darker, more dangerous. Heat flooded through me, erasing rational thought. This was Kang Minho, crime boss. the man who'd condemned men with the same ease most people ordered dinner. And I was kissing him in his library while Seoul sprawled below us, oblivious to how my world had just tilted on its axis. His phone buzzed violently in his pocket. We broke apart, both breathing hard. He pulled out the device, read the screen, and cursed softly in Korean. "I have to go. Jihoon needs me." He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, raw, almost vulnerable. "This conversation isn't over." "No," I agreed, touching my lips where his kiss still burned. "It's not." He kissed me once more, quick and fierce, then was gone. I stood there for several minutes, fingers pressed to my mouth, trying to process what had just happened. When I finally made it back to my room, Marcus was waiting. He took one look at my face and knew. "You kissed him." "He kissed me." I sat on the bed. Maybe I kissed him. It was mutual kissing. "Oh my God," Marcus pulled me close. "Didi, this is insane." "I know." I was going to say dangerous, but insane works too. He studied me carefully. "Are you okay with this? Because once you start something with a man like Kang, there's no going back to being invisible." I thought about his hands on my face, his voice admitting he couldn't stop thinking about me. The way he'd protected me without hesitation, without question, like my safety was worth starting a war over. "I don't think I want to be invisible anymore," I admitted. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then hold on tight, because this is going to change everything. Through the window, Seoul glittered against the night. Somewhere out there, Kang was handling whatever emergency Jihoon had called him for, making decisions that would ripple through the criminal underworld, maintaining power through calculated violence and careful strategy. And when he came back, we'd have to figure out what this thing between us meant. How a housekeeper and a mafia boss could possibly navigate feelings that defied every logical boundary. But for now, I sat with my brother in comfortable silence, touching my lips where Kang's kiss still burned, and let myself feel something other than pain or fear or exhaustion. I let myself feel wanted. The days following that first kiss blurred into something I'd never experienced before, a secret carved out of stolen moments. Kang would find me in empty corridors, pull me into unused rooms, kiss me until my knees weakened and my carefully constructed boundaries dissolved. We talked in hushed voices after everyone else had gone home, conversations that stretched into early morning hours about everything and nothing. His childhood in Busan before his family moved to Seoul. My mother's grief after my father died. The weight of inheriting empires neither of us had asked for. My ribs still ached when I moved wrong, but the pain was fading. 3 weeks had passed since the attack. The bruises had disappeared entirely. Only the fractured rib remained, sensitive, but improving. Friday evening, Kang appeared in the doorway while I was organizing his study. "Come with me," he said. "Where?" "Dinner? Somewhere nice? Not as my housekeeper, as..." He trailed off. "As what?" "As someone I can't stop thinking about." His eyes held mine. "Say yes, Didi." I should have said no, should have maintained boundaries. Instead, yes. The restaurant was elegant, the kind with cloth napkins and wine lists thicker than novels, tucked into a private corner of Cheongdam. We were escorted to a private room in the back, and my stomach dropped when I saw who was already seated. A man in his 50s, heavy set, with scars cutting through his left eyebrow. The same man from the photo Jihoon had shown me. Baek Jin-seok. "Mr. Kang," the man stood, offering his hand. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Kang shook it with bare minimum courtesy. "And this is Didi Okafor, the woman your men decided to use as a message board." Baek's eyes tracked over me with unsettling interest, like he was cataloging weaknesses. "Please sit. I've taken the liberty of ordering wine." The dinner was a masterclass in veiled threats disguised as polite conversation. Baek offered compensation for the unfortunate incident. $100,000, he said, as if that price tag could erase what his men had done. Kang's refusal was ice-cold and absolute. "I don't want your money, I want your word." His voice was soft, deadly. "No member of your organization touches anyone connected to me. Not my staff, not my businesses, not the people who live in my territory. You overstep those boundaries again, and we stop pretending this is about diplomacy." That's quite an ultimatum, Mr. Kang. It's not an ultimatum. It's a statement of fact. Kang's hand found the small of my back. You wanted to test me, see if I'd gone soft. Consider the test concluded. 3 of your operations shut down in 1 weekend. That was restraint. Push me again and I'll show you what happens when I stop being restrained. Beck's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Understood. Your territory remains yours. Your people remain untouched. Good. Kang stood, helping me to my feet. Then we have nothing more to discuss. In the car afterward, I finally released the breath I'd been holding. That was terrifying. That was necessary. Kang's hand found mine. He needed to see you're not just staff. He needed to understand what you mean to me. And what do you mean to you? He looked at me then, something raw and unguarded in his expression. Everything I shouldn't want and can't give up. Back at the penthouse, reality settled in. Kang explained what Beck's interest meant. I was now a known weakness, a target anyone wanting to hurt him would identify. He wanted me to move into the penthouse permanently. Except bodyguards, let him control every movement for my safety. No. The word came out harder than I intended. I'm not becoming a prisoner, Minho. I won't live in a gilded cage because your world is dangerous. You think I'm trying to cage you? Frustration bled into his voice. I'm trying to keep you alive. By taking away my choices. By making every decision for me. By protecting what's mine. I'm not property. I stood in his study, tension crackling between us like lightning. His hands curled into fists at his sides. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Silence stretched between us, heavy and dangerous. Finally, he exhaled. Then what do you suggest? Because doing nothing isn't an option. We compromised. I kept the apartment with Marcus in Guanacu, maintained my independence, but accepted discreet security when I went out at night. A driver when I worked late. Parameters that made him feel I was protected without making me feel owned. I need you to understand something, I said quietly. I'm choosing this, choosing you, but I need to choose it, not have it forced on me. I understand, he crossed to me, cupped my face with both hands. I'm not used to caring about anyone this much. It makes me irrational. You? Irrational? I smiled despite everything. Shocking. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, like he was trying to convince himself I was real and choosing to stay. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. Stay with me tonight, he said, not in the guest room, with me. I nodded, unable to form words around, the want constricting my throat. His bedroom was a revelation, sparse but elegant, dominated by an enormous bed with dark linens and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han. He undressed me slowly, carefully, mindful of the compression wrap I still wore. His fingers traced the fading shadows where bruises had been, the edge of the wrap protecting my healing rib. Does it still hurt? He asked. Sometimes, when I breathe too deep or move wrong. Then we'll be careful. We were. His hands mapped my body with reverence and restraint, learning what made me gasp, what made me arch into his touch. I traced the tattoos I'd glimpsed before, a lion across his shoulder blade, Hangul script along his ribs, symbols I didn't understand but felt the weight of. His scars told stories he whispered in the dark. A knife fight at 19, a bullet at 23, burns from a warehouse fire at 26. You've survived so much, I breathed. So have you. He kissed the spot where my bruise had been. You survived what should have broken you and came back stronger. When he finally moved over me, positioning himself with careful attention to my injury, I felt completely seen, completely known. We moved together slowly, building heat that had nothing to do with rough passion and everything to do with connection, with choice, with two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances and decided the risk was worth it. Afterward, wrapped in his arms with my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow, I felt something I hadn't felt since before my father died. Safe. I meant what I said, Kang murmured into my hair. I'd burn this city down to keep you safe. I know. I traced circles on his chest. That's what scares me and what makes me feel protected at the same time. Then we'll figure it out together. Make rules that work for both of us. Build something that doesn't require you to sacrifice who you are. Outside the windows, Seoul sprawled beneath us. Somewhere in that city, Baek Jin-seok was calculating his next move. Other enemies waited in shadows. The world Kong inhabited would always carry risk. But lying there in his bed, his hand gentle on my healing ribs, I realized I'd already made my choice. Not because he'd forced me, not because I had no other options, because for the first time in years, I wanted something more than survival. I wanted this, complicated, dangerous, impossible as it was, and I was willing to fight for it. 6 weeks later, 6 weeks. That's how long it took for my body to remember what normal felt like. Dr. Park confirmed it on a Tuesday morning in early December. Unwrapping the compression bandage I'd worn like a second skin and pressing carefully along my ribs. No tenderness, he asked? None. Deep breath. I inhaled fully, felt my chest expand without the sharp reminder of fractured bone. It doesn't hurt. Good, you're cleared for normal activity, no restrictions. He made notes on his tablet. The bone has healed completely. Lucky. That was one way to describe surviving an attack that should have killed me. Kong waited outside, and when I emerged, his eyes scanned my face for signs of pain out of habit. All clear, I said. Officially healed. Relief crossed his features, there and gone in a heartbeat. Then we celebrate tonight. Properly. Celebration came in the form of dinner at an intimate French spot near Seongsu, followed by a drive that ended at a building I'd never seen before. What is this? I asked as we pulled into an underground garage. Your new place, if you want it. Kong turned off the engine. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, top floor, security system. Close enough to the penthouse that I can get to you in 10 minutes. Far enough that you have independence. Minho, I can't afford. It's mine. I'm offering it to you. No rent. He held up a hand before I could protest. Before you argue, consider this. You're a target now because of me. This building has security, cameras, guards. Your current building has a broken front door and neighbors who wouldn't notice if someone was breaking in. He had a point. What about Marcus? He moves with you, gets his own room, safety for both of you. I stared at the keys he was holding out. This was too much, too fast. But it was also practical. Safe. Okay, I whispered. Show me. The apartment was beautiful. Modern kitchen, spacious living room, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Nothing like the cramped space I shared with Marcus. There's more, Kong said, leading me to a desk in the corner. He opened a drawer, pulled out a folder. Employment contract. Personal assistant to Kong Minho. Salary $180,000 per year. My breath caught. That was triple what I'd been making. You've been managing my schedule for weeks now, Kang continued. Organizing correspondence. Handling things that would take me hours. This just makes it official. I stared at the numbers. With this salary, I could pay off the remaining medical debt in 3 years. Could afford to visit my mother in Lagos. Could breathe. There's a signing bonus, he added casually. In your first paycheck. Should arrive next week. How much? Enough to handle any outstanding financial concerns. The medical debt. He was talking about the medical debt. Minho, you can't just... I didn't ask your permission. His expression dared me to argue. You work for me. I take care of my people. That's how this works. The following week, I discovered he'd been telling the truth. My paycheck included a bonus of $500,000. Every cent of the debt I'd been drowning under for 2 years. I stared at my bank account at the zero balance where debt used to live and cried in Marcus's arms for 20 minutes straight. He paid it off, Marcus said, holding me while I sobbed. All of it. Didi, you're free. Free. The word felt foreign. For 2 years, that debt had defined my existence. Every shift, every decision, every sacrifice had been in service to that number. And now it was gone. I don't know what to do, I whispered. You live, Marcus said simply. You just live. Our relationship settled into something that felt sustainable. 3 nights a week at the penthouse, 4 at the new apartment. I maintained my own space, my own life, while building something with Kang that didn't require me to disappear into his world completely. He gave me access to his private spaces, his thoughts, his vulnerabilities. I gave him honesty, boundaries, and the kind of devotion that came from choosing him every day rather than being forced into compliance. The underworld noticed. Word spread that Kang Minho had a woman. Not a mistress, not a plaything, something else entirely. Someone he listened to. Someone who influenced his decisions in ways that made rivals nervous and allies curious. January brought a cold snap that turned Seoul into a frozen jewel. I stood in Kang's office, watching snow fall outside, when Ji-hoon appeared. Baek Jin-seok is dead, he said, without preamble. I turned. What? Internal war. His nephew made a play for leadership. It got bloody. Baek didn't survive. Ji-hoon leaned against the desk. His territory is up for grabs. We could expand into Itaewon. Take everything he built. Does Minho know? He's the first person I told. After you. Kang appeared in the doorway moments later, and Ji-hoon repeated the news. I watched him process the information, saw calculation happening behind his eyes. Territory meant power. Power meant security. It was how this world worked. No, Kang said finally. Ji-hoon blinked. No? We're not expanding. Our current territory is stable, profitable, manageable. Taking Itaewon would stretch resources and create new enemies. He glanced at me. I'd rather have what I can protect than grasp for everything I might lose. After Ji-hoon left, I crossed to Kang. That was because of me, I said. That was because I'm tired of building empires at the expense of having a life. He pulled me against him. You made me realize I can choose differently. Choose sustainability over endless expansion. Choose what matters. And what matters? You, this. Keeping what I have instead of always wanting more. That evening, I stood on the terrace where I'd once sat wrapped in blankets and healing. Now I stood beside Kang, watching dawn break over Seoul, the city painted in shades of gold and rose. I want to show you something, he said, gesturing toward the city. This is what I see every morning: power, territory, an empire my grandfather started and my father built. It's beautiful, but it's also a responsibility. He turned to face me. For years, that's all it was. Duty, obligation, the weight of 300 families depending on decisions I made. Then you walked into my life wearing a gray uniform with bruises you tried to hide. And suddenly the city looked different. Different how? Worth protecting for different reasons. Not just territory or power, but because it's where you live, where you walk, where we built something impossible that somehow works. The sun broke over the horizon, and I touched my left side where the fracture had been. Felt nothing but smooth ribs beneath my skin. 6 weeks ago, every breath had hurt. Now I breathed easily, deeply, without fear. Do you ever regret it? Kang asked quietly. How we started, the violence, the complications. I thought about that rainy night 6 weeks ago. The fear, the pain, the feeling of being invisible. Thought about waking up in this penthouse, being seen for the first time. The kiss in the library, the way he'd protected me without asking for anything in return. No, I said honestly. I wouldn't change any of it. The attack brought me to you. Everything terrible led to this. That's a dangerous way to think. Maybe, but it's true. I turned to face him fully. We were built on danger, Minho. That's our foundation, but we're sustained by choice. By deciding every day that this, whatever this is worth the risk. He cupped my face with both hands, thumbs tracing my cheekbones where bruises used to be. I love you, he said. I don't say that lightly. I need you to know. I love you too. The words came easily, naturally. Even though you're complicated and dangerous. Maybe because of it. We stood together as Seoul woke beneath us. Two people who'd found each other through impossible circumstances and built something that defied every logical boundary. His world would always carry risk. Mine would always be complicated by association. But standing there in dawn light, his arms around me and the city sprawling below, I realized I'd stopped surviving and started living. The medical debt was gone. My body had healed. And I'd found something I never expected in a penthouse I'd only meant to clean. A man who saw me completely and chose me anyway. Ready to face the day, Kang asked. I leaned into him, felt his heart beating steady against my back. With you, always. The end. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more intense romances. that'll keep you up at night. Drop a comment telling us, would you risk everything for a love like this? Thanks for watching until the end. You're the real ones.